Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 43 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Sok. Chapter 43 is titled Shipmates. Shinshin. Shinshin Nagami was one of the few recruit whom I befriended and or who befriended me at basic and boot camp. He was quite the loner then. He kept mostly to himself. Eventually, he became my best ally and confidant. His rack was directly across from mine, divided by the center aisle. Shinshin was strong both mentally and physically. He had a mystery about him though. He rarely let people into his circle or heart. He once had told me that he was from Pineapple Grove, California, a neighboring small city next to Long Beach and Signal Hill. As time passed, he slowly shared more detail of his past and what brought him to basic in the first place, and what made him join the Navy. And you, the reader, have read about his upbringing and such in Volume 3 of Shinshin Nagami, the Bastard Torn, and the Succubus They Slept With. Now, Misha Hassan was a shipmate of mine as well at boot camp, whose rack was to the right of mine. Misha came from a wealthy family that resided in Beverly Hills, an affluent neighborhood in Southern California. Misha himself resided in Manhattan Beach while he was going to school there. He had joined the Navy after leaving the University of Southern California, USC, after his junior year. He had told me that he wanted to get away from everything, especially away from his well-to-do, wealthy family. What a fool. Damn Misha, I wish I had your lifestyle then. Having all that cash and stash, and to get any ass you wanted. I envy you, Ben. Hassan seemed to be always getting into trouble at basic. He would always get sent to TPU, where it was worse than IT. At TPU, he had to run in place with a rifle over his head for hours on end. And every time he came back to the barracks from his constant beating, he would be drenched in sweat and tired out of his mind. But he always had a smile on his face. He wasn't allowed anything or anyone to get to him then, just like Shinshin usually do. Except that Misha never had that crazy-ass smirk on his face like Shinshin always do. Misha and I eventually went to San Diego to hospital corpsman school together after graduating from basic in late September. And as for Shinshin, he too went to San Diego. Except he went to Bud's to become a SEAL instead. My company usually got beaten physically all the time by our RDC, no matter if we did things right or we did things wrong, or how much our company accomplished, or how much we have honored by the command for our group achievements. Our RDC simply enjoyed beating the shit out of us physically and mentally. That beating gave us character and made us stronger. That was their excuses every time that they beat us, so that's what they had told us. Another incident happened to me, at no fault of mine, of course. It was shortly after my watch late one night. One morning, Chief Eddenbeck came into our barracks all irate and pissed out of his mind. He looked at the watch bill where we logged what goes on every night while everyone's asleep, and he even got angrier. He tore down the mailbox and threw it directly at me. From his instant thrust and anger at me, I jumped out the way. He thought it was my fault that the watch bill was written and filled out incorrectly, and he took it out at the closest person to him, of which was me, of course. But later on that day, he apologized for his irate episode. On slow days and during our downtime, our RDC would teach me and 5 other stickmen of new recruit class to do various flag drill for various parade and ceremony. I was quite the good teacher then. I had remembered all my moves and stick stance. I can say now I no longer remember any of those flag drill. It was only for basics that I stuck with it. It would be nice to learn those moves again, and perhaps teach my future kids about it. I'll have plenty of story to share with my kids about my experiences in the Navy. Another recruit that came to mind at boot camp was Kevin Gross, a very thin young man from Pensacola, Florida, who was a little slower than everyone else when it comes to being intelligent and having a brain. He had been at boot camp for about 3 months already. He kept getting sent back to another class because he couldn't pass the written and physical exams and tests then. Besides being mentally slow and special, his grooming and body cleansing wasn't that great either. His underwear seemed to always be brown, no matter how much we washed them. He had a peculiar smell that made the other recruits shun him. He was slow mentally and physically. Anyhow, he was a friend of ours at Basic. Shinshin, Misha, and I respected him and saw him as a fellow shipmate. One time, our company went to compete in a decathlon against other recruiting companies. The event that we all participated in were the four-man leg race, push-up, sit-up, and other events. Gross was placed in the four-man race competition, and boy can that special kid run. From his run, everyone started calling him Forrest Gump, because he had the same mentality and was able to run fast. He zoomed through the first quarter of the race, and then all of a sudden, someone stupidly put their leg out and tripped Gross. Gross went face down and with a thud busted his nose. With blood gushing from his face, we all looked on. He got up and took a quick look at our direction and continued to run on. Quickly as Kevin had fallen, Shinshin had already had his hand around the neck of the guy that had tripped Gross. Luckily for that asshole, Shinshin was stopped by several RDC from hurting the guy any further. As a result of the sudden fall of Gross and his bravery to stand back from his fall, the race didn't matter to anyone or to any of us anymore. We saw the type of person Gross had become. He was our shipmate and was respected, and we respected him for giving his best. Luckily, Gross' nose wasn't broken too bad. Only his pride was hurt, but he was fine overall. And fortunately, Gross eventually graduated with my class in late September as well that year. And he was so happy to finally leave boot camp after so many months of failing. During a night before our bedtime, Kevin said that he'll hook me up with his sister in Florida, where he'd see me again in the future. He made all of us laugh at time, and I would tease him about his sister, telling him what I would do to her if I met her. Shinshin too had teased him about his sister, that he would ravage and tear her apart if he ever gets his hand on Kevin's younger sister. Gross was so relieved when he graduated us. Tears trickled down his eye while he stood there during the graduation procession, and at moments I heard soft whimpers radiating from his direction. Soon after graduation, Kevin Gross was sent to an aircraft carrier right after because he didn't have any designated rate, a non-designated job assignment. He was sent to a ship to chip and paint ships. He has now become a boatswain mate for the United States Navy, just like our chief Ed Beck. Boot camp lasted 9 weeks. We graduated late September. The night before we graduated, we were given a little treat from our RDC. They had purchased, all of us, some Subway sandwiches and sodas, which was the only real meal we ever had in over 2 months. We were also given our orders to our next command that evening and duty station, where Hassan, Misha, and I were sent to San Diego to attend hospital corpsman school at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego, and Shinshin was going to Bud's in Coronado, California. As for Kevin, he was sent straight to an aircraft carrier. Good luck, Kevin. I'm sure you'll do fine. Our graduation ceremony lasted for the longest time. We went through strenuous 4 hours of ceremony. Each graduating company would parade and march themselves from their living barracks to the graduating grounds nearby the base entrance next to the chapel. And for the company at Ship 13, it was a long, horrendous march since we were all decked out in our dress white and sash. Each company paraded themselves for the commanding and executive officers and high-ranking guests and dignitaries from various armed services. The stickmen had to salute all the important people every time the bell rings. We salute with our flag, all arriving dignitaries and all colors in sight with their flags. In synchronous fashion, our colorful flag proceeded downward and upward per chiming bells. We heard, "Ding ding," our flag went down. "Ding ding," our flag went up and back and rested at shoulder position. Ding ding. Graduation seemed to last forever. Step by step we proceeded with instruction. Flags went up, flags went down, all in synchronized fashion. The drill team did their performance, throwing wood and metal rifle back and forth whilst stomping their feet in harmonized tone. The choir company sang their song, of which one song in particular was memorable. The recruiting company choir sang "The Rose" by Bette Midler, which they sang in a cappella. While the group sang the heartwarming soft song, I could hear people in the background sobbing and whimpering while the word touched us all. I too began to get weak in the knees and shed a tear or two, but I didn't let that hinder my stance since I was right in the front where guests and dignitaries would see me easily if I were to fall. I stood firm and astute. I didn't want to mess up during the ceremony, the graduation ceremony, and I stood steadfast and went on with the precise technique and procedure of being the number one stickman for Company 388. For the long rigorous event of the ceremony, graduates fell left and right from long ceremonial because they locked their knees while at attention or parade rest position, and for those who collapsed, they were pulled out of their formation and medical personnel attended to them. Some were dehydrated and some were just tired from the long graduation ordeal. The stickmen had it the worst because we had to stand still with our flags snug between our thumbs and forefinger. After graduation and ceremony was finalized, we quickly ran back to our barracks and we packed up all of our belongings and gear into our sea bag and boarded a bus or a van to the awaiting airline at Chicago Airport, which we will fly off to our next destination. Most of us were headed to A school at whatever designator we were decided and had been given at MEPS during our initial enlistment into the United States Navy several months back. Thank you for listening. This is the end of Chapter 43. Be on the lookout for Chapter 44, titled A School, NSHS, Corpsman, Basic. This is Do, Ra, Mi, and I'll see you later. Thank you.